Hey everyone, welcome to the Techegy podcast. This is Techegy Interviews, and we have a very special guest with us today, as always. As you may or may not know by now, we are a podcast that deals with retro computing, gaming, up to the vast landscape of the modern and futuristic. So if at any time you kind of like what you hear, or you don't necessarily hate it, go ahead and do something for us. Subscribe, and one other thing. I need you to climb up to the top rope. Hear the crowd chanting your name. Look out, see the support. Turn around and look in the ring. And you see that like button laying in the middle of the ring? I'm going to need you to drop the most devastating elbow on that like button. Ooh, yeah, brother. This is Techegy Interviews. Hey, Marku, what's up?
Not much. Our guest today has exclusively been working on video games for the past year. During this time, he's released 3 games for the ColecoVision, 1 for the Coleco Adam, and 1 for the Aquarius. He has a new ColecoVision game debuting next week, as well as numerous other hardware projects. He's been self-employed for the last 25 years, but when he's not working on video games, he codes online psychological testing software. That's a tongue twister there. In addition to all this, he is set to open an 8-bit computer gallery and museum just north of the great city of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania later this year. Please welcome William Hicks, AKA Milli. Welcome to the show, Milli.
Thank you.
So, I got to ask the first question. There's one right out of the gate I have to ask. Where does Milli come from?
Okay. All right, so let's go back a while. Let's go back like 17 years, back to like 2005. It was a downtime in my life, and I was bored on Friday nights, so I used to hang out on Yahoo Chat, and I got kind of hooked up into the Yahoo Chat karaoke rooms. So Friday nights, I'd have a couple drinks, and I'd sing karaoke online with a whole bunch of other people who had nothing better to do in their life. And my handle I had for Yahoo Chat got broke. I lost my password, couldn't get back in. So I said, I need to make a name up that somebody is going to recognize that it's me every time I come into these rooms, because there's people always floating in. So I sat there trying to figure out the best name possible that would just like roll. First off, it had to be long. You could have up to 32 characters. It had to be a long name, and it had to stick. So I came up with Hot and Sticky Milli Vanilli. And it stuck. It didn't hurt that I don't mind, that I like the band Milli Vanilli, even though they didn't sing their songs. I liked them. So it stuck, and it kind of, Milli became my nickname for the last 17 years. And it doesn't hurt that it sounds like Willie, Billy, William. So that's where I started out. It's Hot and Sticky Milli Vanilli in the karaoke chat rooms on Yahoo.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. We were trying to figure that out. It was like, did he take Willie and turn it upside down, which kind of looks like your story is much better than that.
Yeah.
Much better. Jason, why don't you go ahead and ask the next question?
Yeah, actually, I had one pop in my head. What was your go-to song every time?
From them? Well, it was a toss-up. Well, there's 3 songs that I like best. I mean, of course, everybody likes Blame It on the Rain. Girl, You Know It's True. But I also like Mom Barker. You probably don't know that song, but that's a good song by Milli Vanilli. I think they had 2 albums.
Yeah.
I got one of their albums, autographed and everything. I spent about a year and a half talking with Fab, who is the only one left alive. Rob killed himself back in 2000. But Fab, he lives in Amsterdam. I spent about a year and a half talking to him every other day via Twitter. Well, it wasn't Twitter at the time. It was it Twitter? No, prior to Twitter, there was something else that we used. AIM. AOL.
Yep.
That's what it was.
Did he actually sign it, or did he have the guy that actually sang the song?
Well, this has been signed because I got this back in 2015 for my birthday. It's one of their original albums released, and this was shipped over from Poland, and it was signed by them.
Awesome.
So I got it, and I've had it up on my wall a couple times when I've done videos, but it was kind of nice that I got to talk to him.
Oh, yeah.
I got to talk to Boy George, too, via Twitter. He got mad at me. Yeah, I was talking, I don't know, I was telling him that when I was a teenager, my girlfriend at the time, she was in love with Boy George back in '83. And she used to do the makeup on me, make me look like Boy George. And I didn't care. I mean, I'm 18 years old, and this is my girlfriend. I'm gonna let her do what she wants. So I was on his thing, and I was telling George O'Dell, Boy George, I was telling him this story, and he got all upset. and this isn't a public forum. It was a public, I keep saying Twitter, but it was something prior to that. But it was a public thing. And he got all upset. And he said, and I can say in his British accent, they let any little monster in here, don't they? I said, all right, fine. I don't like you no more.
Oh my.
Another brush of greatness.
Starting fights with Boy George. You need a T-shirt that.
This is before he had to do the community service in New York City, cleaning up the trash and stuff. This is back when he was doing.
Gotcha.
We're gonna give you a new name. Boy George Milli.
Yeah.
Oh,
Millie the Wonder Boy. No, all right. So I don't know. That's it, guys. That's the podcast. All right. See you later.
Then I had this other thing. I was waiting for you to actually describe yourself because I had this other
That's
thing I like.
where I'm going.
All right.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us about yourself. How did you get interested in this?
All right. Well, I'm 5'8", 123 pounds. I have brown hair, blue eyes. I enjoy surfing, backgammon, and men who aren't afraid to cry. Figure out that reference. Elaine Dickinson, Airplane 2, when she was at the witness stand. I love that movie. But anyways, let's get a little serious here.
Open the doors. With Shatner.
We'll edit that one out.
Yeah.
So describe myself. As Michael said, I do online psychological testing. I've been doing it now since 2005, so that's 17 years I've been doing that. It's basically my full-time job. I run all the psychological testing for one of the largest psychological testing companies in the world, and basically I'm just on call 24 hours a day. So I get paid to be around, which gives me plenty of free time. For 16 or 15 years, I did it out of my house. And then when my daughter was born, we gave up my home office to her as a bedroom, and I decided I'm going to give me an office. I'm going to make that office pay for itself. So I moved in here a little less than 2 years ago, and I just said, I have 1 year. This office has to pay for itself in 1 year. And that's why I started. At first, I was like, okay, maybe I should just do hardware stuff. But hardware wasn't paying. Then I said, one day, I think it was last April of last year, I was sitting there, I said, I should write video games. I've always tinkered with video games, but I've never finished them because I figured there's no one out there who's going to ever play my video games because I was writing them for computers that nobody had. So I said, I'm going to write video games, and I'm going to write them to run on the Coleco Adam / ColecoVision because there's people out there for that. So that's what I decided to do. And here I am, writing video games, paying for my office and moving into a bigger place.
So why Coleco and Aquarius, out of curiosity?
Well, I've had, as I said, I've had like 60 some computers. I basically had anything that was made that was not in Eastern Europe or South America. I've had one of them. But my hobby used to be is I would get a computer and I would find every single thing I could about that computer, hardware-wise, software-wise, book-wise, learn everything I could about that computer and then sell it. And I kept doing that over and over again. Back in 1991, I was living up in Alaska and I bought a Coleco Adam. And I bought the Coleco Adam, and the only thing I had with it was the basic tape and a blank tape. Later on, I ordered a disk drive, but while I was waiting for the disk drive to show up, this is back when shipping took a month to get to Alaska. While I was waiting for a disk drive to show up, my basic tape died. It broke. So I was like stuck. All I had now was SmartWriter. So it's either I use that Coleco Adam or I take it and put it to the side and break out my Ataris and go back to playing with them. So that's what I did. When the disk drive showed up, I had given up on the Coleco Adam. I said, fine, I'm keeping the disk drive. And I sold the Coleco Adam for, I don't remember, I think like 30, 40 bucks, not much. I think I paid about that much at a garage sale for it. But the disk drive I kept because I opened the disk drive up and I unhooked the controller board and I plugged it into the back of my, I had an Atari, I think it was a Percom drive. One of their clone drives, it had a plug in the back, you could plug in the disk drive into it. And I daisy chained it off and I used it with 2 other drives plugged into it, 2 other 5¼ drives to run a bulletin board on my Atari 800 when I was up in Alaska. And then when I got back down here, I was on a nice little epic 400-mile bicycle trip in 2015, me and a friend of mine. We left from New York, we rode through Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, a little bit of Maine. We rode up to the White Mountains and climbed up Mount Washington. But we rode bicycle the whole way there. We stop at night, go to a hotel or to campgrounds. And when we were at the last campground, I was sitting there going to, I think it was eBay. I was looking through eBay, and I saw this one computer system, the Adam. And I told him, I said, "This is something I need to get someday. I want to get one of these again." And he looked at it. He said, "Oh, it looks ugly." And then 3 weeks later, I got it for my birthday. So I got me an Adam back, and the first thing I had to do was fix it because the data drive was broken. It had to burn out wheels, so I had to figure out how to fix that first thing. But that got me back into the Adam. I had been using Timex Sinclair 1000s for a long time. At one time, I ran, like you have Atari Age for all the other computers, I ran ts1000.us, which was the biggest forum for the Timex Sinclair ZX80, ZX81, those computers, and it's still archived now online. But I had really gotten heavy into the Z80s. I really love the Z80 chip. I love CPM software. So when I got the Coleco Adam, I said, okay, here's a Z80 system that actually has graphics too and sound. So I stuck with the Adam, and I just sat there learning how to do it, fixing the hardware, buying them, reselling them, and I'm still at it here 7 years later.
Amazing. Amazing. Well, and one of them's coming.
Just
coming
recently, I
May.
started with the ColecoVision. It was always the Coleco Adam, and I always thought of the ColecoVision as just a game system. I really don't care much about it. It's the Adam. But I've come to realize, you know what? I like writing games more than I like writing CPM software. I mean, I had fun writing CPM software and fun writing operating system software and stuff like that, but maybe 10 people looked at it. I like writing games because more people look at it and use it.
That's true. That's true.
So that gets us where we're at now.
Awesome. Awesome. It makes a lot of sense. Like I said, now one of those, the last Adam you worked on is coming here. So
Mhm.
you've got, I've never had one before, so I'm looking forward to it from that standpoint.
Yeah, the one that you purchased for me that I'm sending to you, that's my backup Adam.
Ah, awesome.
It's been my backup Adam for a year and a half, just sitting there. I test it once a month, but it's been sitting there. And I finally realized, you know what? I don't need a backup Adam. My other one's not going anywhere.
Oh, I send it down to me. If you got anything he's testing.
As soon as it breaks down, you're gonna have to give it back.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I can't stop progress on stuff on it. So JM, do you have a question that you want?
Actually, I want to, before I ask my question, Millie, were you self-taught? Did you teach yourself how to program?
I taught myself everything.
Okay.
My first experience on computers was back in 1979, 1980 on timeshare computers at the school libraries. We sit down at the dumb terminal or at the teletype printer, and I would play Star Trek.BAS. I would play football.BAS. You know what I mean?
Star Trek.BAS?
Oh, yeah. I remember it was Star Trek.BAS.
I played it on the Apple.
Mhm. And that was my first thing. And the first thing I remember getting in trouble for on the computer was because we had BASIC, and I was sitting there looking at these other BASIC programs, and I wrote a BASIC program, and I don't know how I did it, but what I did to the BASIC program is every time the BASIC program was shut down, it would reset itself and start over again.
Mhm.
And everybody at the library, they just couldn't figure out how to stop it, so they just left it running all weekend. And I got in trouble when I came in on Monday. They said, because I left the computer running all weekend, that I had used up their timeshare for the week on that.
So you're self-taught from the programming standpoint. What about, like, you're doing a lot of hardware repairs and stuff? Where did you learn that?
Everything is self-taught. Watch videos,
Okay.
read, everything.
Okay, very good. All right, the question I have for you is, you know, I know you're making games for, you know, ColecoVision and Aquarius, but any other systems that you're going to be thinking about down the road that you might be programming?
There's 3 systems I've thought about. One system I thought about was the Sinclair, only because it's a ZX8, it's a Z80 chip on it.
Right.
I don't like its graphics system. I've never been able to like the Sinclair graphic system. I just can't get past the broken colors. I mean, I love the Z80, and that's the next step up from the ZX81, but I don't like their graphic system. So that's one system I thought of working on. I'd like to eventually go back to the Atari system because that's what I started on. But the other one that I've been fighting, I mean, I keep telling myself, you're going to write for this one because it's the biggest one out there. You're going to write for it. And I've been fighting it because my whole life I call it the commie, is the Commodore. And I was an Atari. We hated the commies and we didn't like the crapples. I mean, that's how I grew up.
I was Apple, and I didn't like the commode doors.
Yep. And I keep telling myself, you're gonna write for the Commodore. You're just gonna write games where you're not gonna like the system, even though it's got a lot of power to it. The C64, you don't have to like it.
And it was one of the best selling. It was one of the best selling computers, like, you know, of all time.
Yeah, they are. I've had a number of them. I've had a number of Commodore 128s. I've had the Plus 4s. I've had the VICs. The only 8-bit of the Commodores I haven't had, besides the like the B128s and the early Pets, is the SS64, which is basically why bother, the portable 64. But I liked the Commodore 128. I got it because it's got a Z80. It runs CPM, and it's so doggy slow. I say, okay, I got it, and I sold it. I've had about 3 of them. Every time I get them, it's like, I'm going to keep it this time. No, I sell it. But this time, I'm going to work on the Commodores this time eventually, because I got me a C64 Mini, and I can't sell that one, so I can test on it.
Hey, I had an SX64 and I loved it. It was, you know, it was ahead of its time.
Oh, yeah, it was. It's just,
it was a little bit heavy, but
the how much everybody wants them so bad, and it's really, there's nothing to it other than the fact it's just a portable Commodore 64. There's nothing special. I mean, it's like with the Commodore 128. I love the Commodore 128, but everybody's like, I need to get the 128D, the one with a detachable keyboard and stuff. Why? It's still the same system.
yeah, right.
What it looks like, but they're willing to pay hundreds of dollars more for it.
Oh yeah. Hey, so so you're thinking about Commodore, but what about programming for the Adam specifically? You know, take advantage of the more powerful hardware on the Adam.
I considered it. That's one of the reasons why I made the RAM board, so that anything I write that needs extensive memory will also run on the Adam also.
Okay, got it.
I considered writing exclusively for the Adam, and the issue I have with that is just the demand isn't big enough. And if I write it and I put it on disk, then it's limiting who can use it, because not everybody has disk drives. If I put it on data pack, which I've done with Pizzura, which was one game I released for the Adam. Not many people want to buy data pack games. And if I put it on a cartridge, well, if I'm going to put it on a cartridge, it's going to run on a ColecoVision. So that's why I said, okay, I'm going to make the RAM board, which expands the memory of the ColecoVision without it having to need the super game module. That way, if I write something that runs on the ColecoVision with RAM board, it will run on the Adam with its memory, and I can take advantage of some of the features of the Adam if I want to.
Got it.
Yeah, makes total sense. So you'd mentioned making the RAM board, and you also make a power supply for the Adam. Tell us a little bit more about the hardware repair and the hardware that you produce as well.
For repairs, I repair basically anything I can figure out how to fix, and that's pretty much anything on the only thing I haven't been able to fix yet, and I've got like 20 data drives here to prove it, is when the data drive finally dies, it's almost impossible to figure out which one of those little resistors and transistors did it. So trying to fix that, I mean, they get to a point where, okay, you can no longer be fixed. You are now parts, and I salvage things off of you. I have gotten more into replacing chips now, where it used to be if I came across an Adam that had bad memory, I just, okay, that's a parts board, I threw it away. Now I actually replace the chips. Though Coleco was really flimsy on how they made their boards, and their traces lift off every time you try to replace them. They're messy as can be. But if you can do it right, you can fix them. And what I started to do, I did with one computer that I sent to somebody else, and I gave it to him as just a freebie, is putting 128K right on the Adam, because I thought that was cool. Everybody said you just use an expansion code. I like the fact of having it on board, just updating the memory so that it had 128K on the computer itself. That's one hardware fix I got. I have the other thing that I call the power base. I guess not many people want to have it, but I love it. I mean, it's one thing I use. It's got an internal power supply built into the Adam. You don't have no external anything. It's just
nice.
you plug your power cord in the back, and it's got an on and off switch on the side, and that's it. And then I did the internal ADE for mine, so my Adam now looks like a computer should look without anything hanging off it by a bunch of wires. Some of the other hardware projects, I got more projects than I got time. Some of the other hardware projects I want to do, and I've fleshed this out and I've discussed it with a number of people, and they don't see why it's not possible. I want to make an adapter to plug onto the ColecoVision, and it'll plug onto the Adam too, because they both have the same expansion port. You plug a Pi to the expansion port, and all that Pi does, because I've talked with these guys who are really into Z80s and understand how interrupts and how I/O works and stuff like that. All the Pi does is monitor the I/O addresses and the I/O signals, and it just sits there and listens to any communication to the video chip. And if it sees any communication to the video chip, it emulates that on its HDMI output. So what you have is you plug this thing into the side of your ColecoVision, and you have HDMI ColecoVision without changing a thing.
Wow.
Because the Pi emulates it on the screen. That's what I want to do. I just don't know the Pi well enough. I'm trying to figure that one out. My other thing is that I want to do is I have one guy who's going to try to work on it. This might actually get somebody to make it, because I really don't care if anybody else makes it, because I'd like to have it done. Is using a Pi again, or maybe even an Arduino. I think an Arduino, you'd have to get an extra shield. But take a Pi, you put it on your I/O chips, on your GPIO chips. You have 8 of them coming out. You plug them into both controllers. Then you plug the keyboard into the Pi. You type on the keyboard, and it sends the signals into the controller. ColecoVision just interprets that as key presses. You just added a keyboard to the ColecoVision by just plugging it into the controller and have a little bit of software that reads it.
Wow.
It's something else that I want to do. I just, in all of my free time, I ain't got free time to do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I've worked with some stuff on the Pi, but it's been mainly emulation and cameras are the things I've done with it. I did one with making it, the what they call it, the Pi 1541 for the Commodore, that basically treats it as a disk drive. That works actually really well. That's a pretty mature product. What you're talking about, that's really interesting.
Then the other thing I wanted to do with a Pi too, and I know all this can be done, it's just, again, don't have the time, and 2, don't have the time and the experience with the Pi, is I wanted to interface a 32K RAM or NVRAM, probably NVRAM is better, non-volatile RAM, to the Pi. Let the Pi fill the RAM, but the RAM's also connected to the cartridge. You plug it in. You go on your phone or whatever, interface into your Pi, drop a ROM file into your ColecoVision and play.
Wow.
Not have no SD cards, no nothing. It's just the Pi is in the cartridge. It can run off of the power coming out of the cartridge and everything.
So like a super Atari Max.
Yeah, basically, and you don't have to. You just use your phone. The ultimate easiness of it. And the nice thing that would be about it is that you have this Pi, which is like about 1,000 times more powerful than the ColecoVision, just sitting there. So you could code the Pi to watch certain bytes, and your program on your ColecoVision could talk to the Pi, and the Pi could talk back to it. So now you could have a program on the ColecoVision. If you incorporate the plugging of the controllers, plug the wires into the controller so that it gets a keyboard input. I mean, really, why do it? But you could now use your ColecoVision with a keyboard off the Pi to go on the internet. Why would you do that? Probably because you can.
It's just amazing that you have modern hardware talking to hardware from 40 years ago.
And the other thing I thought of today, because when I'm sitting there soldering, and I spent like 3 hours today soldering to finish those cartridges up. The other thing I thought of doing, because you could do this too, because like the Atari, the controller ports are input ports, and you technically have 4 inputs on each port. So you have 8. You have 1 byte worth of input coming into it. You could, if you could find one, if not find one, make one. Connect a paper tape reader to it. Just to go really old school. Have a cartridge, it boots up and it tells you insert paper, and have it read in a program. If you have a RAM board, if you have a super game module to give you more extra memory, it reads in and runs the program off a paper tape. Why?
Wow. Yeah, because you can, yeah.
Yeah, just so you can.
Yeah.
But it's ideas like that the idea may sound stupid at first. It gets other people thinking about other things they can do. And next thing you know, you have the super game module, or you have the mouse adapter for the Adam. I mean, why? Why not?
Yeah. Exactly. So
Why not?
So which game has been the most difficult to program?
Crazy Climber was the most difficult. I'll say Crazy Climber Redux, so that we differentiate the two. Was the most difficult because it was my first.
Okay.
And I had to learn some things that I didn't know. When I went into Crazy Climber and coding Crazy Climber, I was very proficient in assembly language. I knew a lot about how the Atom worked when it came to video memory and stuff like that. I understood how the ColecoVision handled it. I knew next to nothing about sound. And I was just starting to learn how the interrupts work. I mean, I had a working knowledge of how interrupts work, but I didn't have a hands-on knowledge of how they work. So Crazy Climber was the hardest one because I was learning as I went along. There's a couple of versions. Every day when I came in, I would back up my working file. And with Crazy Climber, I have about 75 zip files of every day's incremental backups. And there's a couple versions where I just scrapped and started over. So they had some interesting bugs in them. But Crazy Climber was hard because I did not understand how the ColecoVision played music. I knew how the sound chip played music, but not how the ColecoVision played music. So I got the music I needed. I got the sheet music I needed, and I hired a guy in Portugal, and he converted it into this little pseudo language that I came up with on the fly, which gave me the sound. And it worked really well. And then for the next game, Turmoil, I sat down and figured out how sound works, so I didn't want to do that again. So Crazy Climber was the hardest doing that. Turmoil was a piece of cake. Arcadian was easy and hard at the same time. Arcadian was an easier game because I'd already learned a lot. But it was harder because I introduced a bug that took about 2 weeks to find, and it really drove us crazy. I mean, it almost got me to the point of scrapping a big chunk of code and saying it's not going to work. And I finally chased it down, and I can probably still kick myself today because that same bug showed up again in the most recent game. And I spent 3 days chasing it before I found it again. I mean, the bug's real easy. In my code, in the sound, where you set up the sound tables for music, at the bottom of the code, I need to tell it how many sound tables there are, or how many entries there are in the sound table, or in the tables, so that I can then tell the ColecoVision there are 20 sounds in here, 20 different sound patterns to work with. And so in that part of the code, I divide by 2. Actually, it's divide by 4. Divide by 2. I take the amount of space I use up and divide it by 2 and tell the ColecoVision this is how many tables are. But as I'm sitting there going along, I didn't realize every time I had a new table, I was changing that number. And I don't know why. But what happened is by the time the bug crept up, I had 65 sound table entries. And it had creeped up and it was now sitting on top of the stack. So every time I started doing a lot of subroutines and calls and stuff like that, the stack is changing. And the ColecoVision starts interpreting that as sound data. And next thing you know, it went off in a never land. But the interesting thing was that the ColecoVision and the emulators didn't pick up on that problem at first. The Phoenix did. The Phoenix crashed nonstop on it. And it took me a while to get the ColecoVision to crash on it. But once I discovered it and fixed that number, it all worked again. And it showed up again in my last game because it'd been like 2.5 months. I had switched to the Aquarius for 2 months, worked on a game there. So when I went back to the last game, I did the same mistake. This time, I have a whole bunch of routines that I've written that when I'm done with one game, when I start another game, I port them over to the next one because they're all debugged out. I don't want to do them again. So this time I wrote a nice little comment there. Don't touch the 2. Leave it alone. So hopefully in the next game, it doesn't show up again.
Yeah, that's great. So we talked about the most difficult game to program for, but what do you think has been the most difficult aspect for you when it comes to both developing and getting these games and hardware out to people?
The developing of the game is not hard. That's pretty easy because that's just basically an extension of what I'm doing. I'm just coding. Getting them out to people, the hardest part about that is getting the actual physical cartridge shipped. And what I end up doing now is I troll eBay. And I see someone list on there 20 cartridges, a lot of 20 cartridges, $150. I'll send them an email. I'll send them a notice and say, I'll buy them right now for 50. 5 times out of 10, they say no, but the other 5 times they say yes, and I get them. So if I can get the shells for $3 or less, then I'm keeping it within my cost. If it goes above $3, then I have to start worrying about it. Now I'll look at the cartridges I get. If I'm getting a lot of 20 of them, and 19 are Donkey Kong, Smurfs, and looping, And one is War Games. Oh, okay, War Games is going to help pay for those 20 cartridges. And I put that one to the side. But yeah, I sacrificed a lot of cartridges. I got a box over here with 200 ROMs on it that I need to get rid of. That's the third box.
I saw that. I saw you posted that up on.
I have
the group.
I haven't run the numbers recently completely. Well, I'm adding another 100 today, but I am a little over 750 games on cartridge since September.
Wow.
Not bad.
Wow.
But yeah, that's the hardest part is getting the well, the other hard part was too, and this is the hard part also, is that there's not a lot of resources out there for home brewers to know how to do it. How do you make a box? What are the box dimensions? You can measure out your boxes and you approach a box company and they're going to say, yeah, we can do them in quantities of 10,000. Well, I only want to do 100.
Right.
Well, that's going to cost you $5, $10 a box. Okay? I mean, it's just too much for that. So what I had ended up doing, and I did for the first 3 games, and it worked out, is I designed up my box and I had them printed, and they come to me as flat sheets. And then I would sit there and spend 2 or 3 days, cut them all down, gluing them back together. And then what I did with those games is I put them in plastic protectors to help stiffen them, just to make them so that they work. So I mean, so that's the hard part. Getting the shells, that's hard. Getting the boxes or knowing how to produce the boxes was hard. The PCBs was a piece of cake. I had a friend of mine who made me up a PCB board. I sent over to China, had 20 printed up. I had them put back. I tested them. They worked great. And that's what I've been using since then. Labels, I have no problem getting the labels printed. Nobody can print a 3.5 by, what is it? 3.5 by, I think it's 3.5 by 2 3/4 or something like that. It's an oddball size, so I have to cut a 3/4 of an inch off. That's what I was doing today when I was doing the labels. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there who can do a custom one like that, but that's versus get 100 of them made up for $40 or get 100 of them made up for $200. I'll get 100 made for 40 and cut them myself.
Yeah.
And then when it came to boxes with the Aquarius, when that game came out, I hit upon a way of making the boxes a lot easier that seems to fit, and that's where I'm going with from now on. That works really well. And the thing is, and I put some online on my YouTube channels, is anyone who's looking to do any homebrew games for ColecoVision or even for anything else, they want advice, contact me. I'm not hiding anything. I'll tell you everything I know because it's fun to tell people. I ain't gonna earn nothing by not telling somebody.
Yeah, so I'm thinking as far as like, maybe advertisement's not the right word, but getting the word out for your game, because I imagine this is all pretty much just been word of mouth.
Yeah,
Forums.
My biggest word of mouth is Facebook. Facebook is my biggest thing. And I have the Retro Gamers Club, so that right there is probably going to account for half of the sales that I'm going to do on this next game, just through the club itself. So that's one of the reasons why I set up the club, because these are people who are willing to, they're buying the games, they want to buy the games. And so Facebook, I do YouTube. I don't do any real advertising other than after the game's been released, about a month after the game's been released, I'll put it on eBay because that expands my market out. The only issue I have with eBay is I lose money on eBay, right? Because they start taking their percentages off, and some people want to try to make offers. I mean, so like right now, I got my Aquarius game. It's listed on eBay for 30, and my store is listed for 40. The reason it's on eBay for 30 is because it hasn't been moving on eBay at all at 40. So I dropped it down to 30 because it's starting to move now at 30. I'll move the one on the store down to 32, but nobody's really buying the Aquarius game on the store because they don't know about it, because Aquarius has a really small market. Aquarius was just basically a test run. I just wanted to see what it was like to be another group. And I got another game coming out for them. I like the little group. I just have to aim at a very small release count. And with that game, I did 57 games, and that's fine. I'll sell them all out and I'm done. With that game, now go to the next one.
57 is the Pittsburgh reference there, huh?
Yeah. So what game has sold the best for you?
I would say that would be Crazy Climber. Crazy Climber initially sold 168 copies through Kickstarter, and I have sold about an additional 250, or no, additional 200 copies myself.
Okay, so you almost close to 400.
Yeah, then the next game would be Turmoil. That's almost up to 200 copies on that. Arcadian's been a struggle. And we won't get into why I believe that is the case. But Arcadian's been a struggle. I'm almost hitting up 100 on that one. And that's fine. I plan to make 100 games for that game. I wanted to do 100 to be done. And I'm going to hit on, well, I will take that back. I sold more in Arcadian because I sold 60 wholesale to 2 different companies that are selling them themselves. So I did sell more on that one. I sold 160 copies of that.
Cool.
But what I've decided is with Crazy Climber and with Turmoil, I just said I'm gonna keep making them until I don't have any more boxes left. And with Crazy Climber, I think I have another 50 boxes. Turmoil, another 50 or so. But when it came to Arcadian and then with Turmoil for the Aquarius and with the new game, I ordered a fixed number. I said I'm doing 100. Well, for Arcadian and for Turmoil or for the new game, I'm doing 100. I ordered that number of boxes, and when it's sold, it's sold. I can always do another run later, but I'm not going to sit here and keep making them 1 and 2. Once they're out the door, they're out the door.
Yeah.
You mentioned the retro gaming club. How is that going?
That's
And
going good.
is it going well? And for our subscribers that may not necessarily know about it, you want to kind of chat about it a little bit. I think all of us are members of it, but there's probably some people listening that probably have not heard of it.
Yeah, with the Retro Gamers Club is basically it's an exclusive. Any game that 8-Bit Milli Games produces will go to members first. If the game is released digital, they'll get it free. If it's not released digital, the members get to buy it first hardware-wise on the cartridge, but they get a 25% discount on it. Like the game that's coming out on the 1st of July, members will have 1 month to buy it exclusively, and then on August 1st, non-members can purchase it at a higher price. The biggest feature for the Retro Gamers Club, though, is the hardware. If you're a member of the Retro Gamers Club and you have a ColecoVision or a Coleco Adam or any hardware that I understand that's not working, just let me know what it is and ask if I can fix it, and I'll tell you, ship it to me. And I'll work on it. And if I have to replace parts, I'll tell you what it's going to cost for the parts. But if I had the parts laying around, extra pieces and chips and stuff like that, and I'll fix it and then I'll send it back to you. You just pay the shipping to and from. I've had a number of people send me dead systems and I send them back working systems. So I think that's the biggest feature of the Retro Gamers Club is that the hardware repair.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. JM and I, when we saw that, we were like, "Oh, this is worth it just for that service."
Yeah, just for the hardware repair.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I've got one of my founding members that has been using it a lot, and he says, "I know I'm probably getting on your nerves." And I said, "Yeah."
I almost sent you one. I almost sent you one that I picked up, and I one of my friends who was an electrical engineer, we knew exactly what it was. So I got him over and I gave him a couple of beers, and he was able to take the 2 IC chips out and replace them, which is one of the common failures, unfortunately. There's no electrostatic guard on those ports, but I'm sure you see that a lot.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common one. When it comes to replacing the RAM, it'll be on the way to you, because that I started that, and like you said, those old boards, especially Coleco. I've worked on some Ataris myself, but especially those Colecos. Boy, those traces lift off so easy, and if you're even a novice at it, it's almost impossible to get them off without doing some damage.
Yeah, my last shipment from AliExpress was a whole bunch of 4 116 RAM chips for the ColecoVision, because I figured eventually I'm going to be replacing a lot of them.
I think so. I've got 2 of them replaced by another vendor, but the 3rd one would be on its way to you, if that right there, as a member of your club. So you've kind of been hinting around at it a little bit. And we know you got upcoming games coming. What do you have in store for us? What little secrets do you have for me and the guys here today? And
Spill the beans, Millie.
Yeah, what do you got for us? We keep hearing this July 1st, and we don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe a little.
Well, let me give you a little history here. Back when the ColecoVision came out, we probably all heard of BTech.
Yes.
They made the BTech laser, and they make all the little toy computer games and stuff like that. Well, back when the ColecoVision was coming out, BTech created a thing called the CreativeVision, which was basically a ColecoVision running a 6502 instead of a Z80 chip. Everything else was the same concept. 1K of RAM, same sound chip, same video processor, everything. And that was basically, it wasn't for the American market. I don't think it was ever really sold over here. It was mostly for the Asian market. It was rebadged as the Dick Smith Wizard down in Australia and New Zealand. But they had a game. One of their launch titles was called Crazy Pucker, Pucker, as in hockey puck, which was a basic Pac-Man ripoff. Well, I guess Namco didn't like that. So they had to change it real quick, and they changed it to Crazy Chewy, which basically what they did is they gave the Pac-Man a long nose, and they changed the ghosts into foxes. And that didn't work either. Namco was still upset about it. So they came up with the next version of it. They called it Crazy Chicky. And they turned it into a chicken, and instead of eating pellets, it lays eggs. So now it's a complete concept is different. Instead of eating the pellets, now you're filling the maze up instead of letting go. And that was the game. It had 2 screens on it, and it's a cool game. You can find it on YouTube. It's a fun little game to watch. But I was looking at it, and I was saying, this game needs to be on the ColecoVision. Well, we don't want to make just a 2-screen game. I don't like people that port things. Great, they're really good at what they do, but that's just not me. I don't copy. So I looked at the Crazy Chicky, and I studied it, and I figured out how it works and what it's doing, and got a really good idea of what it's working. I actually found the ROM and downloaded it, which is totally useless because it's in 6502 for a different computer. But I was able to look at the binary, and I did find the sprites, so that saved me a few minutes of drawing a 16 by 16 sprite. But other than that, I decided I'm gonna make everything from scratch, and we did, and we came up with Crazy Chicky Jr.
All right, I gotta get close to the screen now. I'm old, so.
That is Crazy Chicky Jr.
Crazy Chicky Jr. All right.
So let's see I gotta see the backside. Let's see
That's
the
the
backside.
back, and it shows 2 of the screens.
That looks that's totally different than the games that you've developed in the past. It's a totally.
And on the back it says, "Mommy used to protect the hen house from the evil foxes. Now it's Junior's turn. There's 8 different mazes with increasing difficulty levels. Can you help Junior lay her eggs while keeping the hen house safe?" As it says, there's 8 mazes. So 1 through 8 is the 8 mazes, and 9 through 16 is the 8 mazes, but the mazes disappear. They keep turning on and off. So imagine trying to play a Pac-Man game when you can't see the maze.
Yeah.
Which is kind of fascinating too, because actually when it does play, like the image stays in your mind, in your eye long enough for you to remember what the walls were. And then the next batch for the next set of 8 from 16 through, I know I'm throwing my numbers up, 17 through 24, now the eggs blink on and off. So you can't see where you laid your eggs.
Wow.
And then from 25 to 32, the eggs blink on and off, and the maze blinks on and off, but they don't blink in sequence because we don't want to cause epilepsy. But it's almost impossible to play it. And then there's 8 different mazes, and the 8th maze is, even though it's called the Grape House, it's actually, I call it Thunderdome because it's a very hard maze to play. And it's a very fascinating game. It's got a lot of quirks to it.
Is it available now?
It'll be available on June 30th.
June
To
30th.
members. It will be available to members on June 30th, July 1st.
Okay.
That was my question. Yeah, was it gonna be, is this gonna be one of those exclusives? I mean, I like having the physical.
Right, it's gonna be in the store, and I've debated this, and I've asked my wife about it too, and she's iffy on which way to go. I'm gonna have it in the store, and I've debated on members. If the members order it, besides the fact they get the 25% discount, if the member orders it, it'll ship immediately. If a non-member orders it, it won't ship till August 1st. I may do it that way.
Yeah.
So they can order it, but they're gonna have to wait a month to get it. And that would be
Exclusive.
Yeah, you just don't get it until the members get theirs first. Now there is one caveat to that. If you go to the Cleveland show on July 23rd, I will have them there for sale to public. So
John's excited about that.
early if you're not.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
But you won't be able to play it until August
Just
1st.
make sure your cell service is good there, so you can charge me inside the.
Yeah, you got to promise you won't play it till August 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
But yeah, the game itself is very well done. It's very smooth. The sprites are almost flicker free, which if you know anything about the ColecoVision, you get flickering sprites. We got a couple cool ways of doing it. I mean, others have done it too, but this actually worked out pretty well for us, how we did it. It's got some interesting gameplay. If you're familiar with Pac-Man, you know if you eat the power pells and they turn into ghosts, you can go get them and whatever they do. It's the same concept. Crazy Chicky was the same way. You eat one of the vegetables. All they had was carrot, was it carrots? Yeah, all they had was carrots. We have other vegetables and fruits.
Right.
We don't like carrots that much.
So,
So you eat one of the vegetables and the foxes change color and they run away from you. And if you get them, they turn into ghosts, go back to their pen, they wait till the sound's all gone. It's got the bonus, just like the Pac-Man does. You got a little bonus that shows up below the, what I call the cage where the foxes are. The slight difference in this one is when that bonus is on the screen, the foxes can now steal your eggs.
Okay.
So you better eat that bonus quick because they're eating your eggs.
so does this?
It's got a few quirks to it that makes it different than Pac-Man. It's not a standard Pac-Man game.
Sure.
It's nice in that it's got tunnels going up and down, left and right. On the Thunderdome level, which is level 8, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4. It's got 8 tunnels on it. 4 on the top, bottom, 4 on the left, right. And basically the whole maze is open. There's no walls. So that's why it's called a Thunderdome, because they're chasing you.
Yeah.
And there's 3 skill levels. Skill level 1 is pretty much 3 of the 4 foxes are wandering around blind, and the 4th one barely knows you exist. If you play skill level 3, Fred, who's the best fox of them all, he's on the hunt nonstop. He's chasing you all over the place. Bob's a little like Fred. He's not as good as Fred, but he's like Fred. Frank just hangs out with the guys, but he's okay. And then Maurice, we don't know what to do about Maurice. Maurice is the one just has no clue what he's doing. They got names in the manual. It describes who they are and everything. Like, yeah, let me show you. I can show you. I'll open up
I
the
feel like
box.
you just described
This
us.
is the box design. See how it's got a sleeve, then it's got a solid box inside. We'll open up the box here. Every game has a serial number on the box. Has the same serial number on the manual. This is the manual. Nice little 8-page manual. Here are the 8 different levels. You can
Oh, that looks like fun.
pause in to look at that. Oh, we got a new person in here. So that's the levels, and it tells you how the foxes work and how the game plays. Then here's the cartridge, and I'll take it out of the bubble wrap. That's the Crazy Chicky Jr. cartridge. It has a serial number on the back, and it also has a serial number in the ROM. Every ROM has an individual serial number that's
Wow.
unique to that game.
So you had to code all that. Does the game require the RAM board?
No, this one does not. I was going to use it, and I said, no, I'm not going to do with this one. I'm going to do with the next game is going to require the RAM board or an Atom or a Super Game module. But this one, I figured, because I was saying, you know, I could do this, and then I could make the game run even faster. I said, no, this is. I'm not even using the full 32K of ROM. Why should I require them to have a RAM board? But the next game is going to, because it's going to be a 128K mega card, and it's going to want that RAM board too.
So yeah, because you have that one adventure game coming out.
Yeah, that's not the one. That's the next. That's not
Okay.
Great. That's Great Castle, and Great Castle's coming along good. The fascinating thing about Great Castle is it's a text adventure. It's never been done on the ColecoVision. It is a full-blown text adventure. There's not one drop of graphics anywhere in it, and it works all with the controller, and the controls are very smooth. The gameplay is very smooth. It's about 75% done. The nice thing about that one is most of the work that I'm doing now is designing the story maps that run through this engine. The engine is standalone, and you make maps that go with it. So it's just when I make Great Castle, and I can make another game right afterwards that uses the exact same engine. or I could release the engine and say, guys, you want to make games? Here's how you do it. It's pretty easy. But Grey Castle, that was going to be my next game before Crazy Chicky, and I said, okay, I'm going to hold off on Grey Castle because Grey Castle, I really want to take time to get that story just right because that's what the game is, story. It's not graphics. So Grey Castle, I'm looking at by the end of the year it comes out. So I went through and I looked at online on the Retro Gamers Club. I have a list of upcoming games, and I'm still working on all those games in one place or another. My next game that I was going to work on is the one I'm actually going to work on now. The next one is Joe the Eskimo. That's the one that's going to require the RAM board. It's going to use a Mega card. Because Joe the Eskimo is basically going to be Super Mario World for the ColecoVision without it being Mario. And without
getting sued by Nintendo.
Yeah, it's going to be a side-scrolling platformer game.
Awesome.
Very big one, which I think the ColecoVision needs. It doesn't have one of them. It has a lot of arcade games. It has some of the isometric games where there's quasi 3D. It's kind of hard to do real 3D games on the ColecoVision because you have the bottleneck of talking to the video display processor. But it's missing a side-scrolling platformer game. It just really isn't one out there. There's a lot of side-scrolling games, but they don't scroll. You're like one screen, next screen, next screen. Right. So that's the next game is Joe the Eskimo. And the reason why it's going to require a Rambo board or it's going to require a Coleco Adam or a Super Game module is a lot of that scrolling is going to be done in memory and then dumped over to the video display processor.
Interesting.
So when we were at Korg's, I remember Grey Castle you were showing off or advertising. There was another game too.
Pyrex. Yes,
I'm very interested in that one.
Pyrex is a game I am still playing with. I love the idea of Pyrex. And one of these days it will get done. Pyrex is an interesting concept game in that it's a 3D style game in that you're exploring this 3D world. And in this 3D world are other people that live in this 3D world, and they were attacked by viruses. So really what the game is you moving around this maze-like world and you come across somebody and they got viruses on their face. And your job is to shoot the viruses off their face before they die, because if they die, you die. So you're basically the antivirus. You got to clean them up. And the whole idea of it being that green screen with the, even like Michael has down here is falling rain behind him. That happening on the ColecoVision, I mean, I actually have that happening. And I had one guy say that it's going to cause him to vomit. It's scrolling. I mean, I got the whole screen scrolling in the background while you're moving around, and it
saw that.
really is hard to see.
So,
but that Pyrex is a game I want to make. I really do want to make that one. I've just realized that some of these games that I want to make may not be games that other people want to buy. So I have to okay, make the games they'll buy, make the games you like. Like a Crazy Climber Redux, I made that game because that's the game I wanted to make. And people wanted to buy it. Turmoil 2020, I made that game because my friend said that he had always wanted to make Turmoil for the ColecoVision. And I said, what is Turmoil? I've never heard of it. So he sent me a YouTube link for the 2600. I watched that. I said, I can make that. Would you mind? He says, no, make it and give me a copy. I said, okay. So I made it because it just looked like a fascinating, just hold the button down and hang on game. And then Arcadian was the game I wanted to make. And it's been a struggle to get people to see the concept I've had in it. I guess it's because it's a strategy, not even strategy. It's an arcade game, but you have a goal to the game. It's not like just keep shooting until you die. You have to reach the goal. You have to do certain things. And I liked it, but not everybody liked it. So then Crazy Chicky, which I like, everybody likes Pac-Man.
Yes.
And then Pyrex, I was thinking, okay, Pyrex, I like the idea of Pyrex, and I want to do that one. But will everybody like Pyrex? So I'm going to get one or two games out that everybody likes, then I'll do the game I like. My other game I have is I'm working on it, and I'll give you some hints on this one too. It's called Biker Commander. If you want to have an idea of what Biker Commander looks like, did you ever watch Battlestar Galactica in the 1970s?
Yes.
Remember that green screen radar showing the Cylons coming or the Cylon ship moving around and they're trying to shoot at it? That's what Viper Commander is. And it actually does play a little right now.
Nice.
That's a game that I want to make.
Sure.
And not many people may not want it. I'm working on shooting the Viper out of the launch tube and stuff like that. That'd be kind of fun. But those are those games that I want to make, and then those games that people want to buy. So I got to kind of balance them.
So where do you get your inspiration for game ideas? Like, you know, just
I watch YouTube, and I go on YouTube and I look for really old computer systems. There's some of these systems where people are like, for instance, Arcadian. I was watching this one guy doing a review of games that were written. They were like type-in games for magazines. They were shareware type-in games for magazines back in the early 80s for the Atari. And there's one game there called Alien Ambush, which was kind of a dull game, but the concept behind it was the ship would show up, you shoot it, and it broke up into 4 ships and you shoot them. And I looked at that and I said, that's not a bad way of doing the game I had in my mind, where you had to go shovel supplies back and forth from a space station back down to the moon. I said, that's not a bad way of doing this. That's the inspiration I got for the attacking with Arcadian, was from that. Crazy Cheeky Jr., I went on YouTube and I just typed in ColecoVision because I knew what the ColecoVision was. I typed it and I said, what do they have out there that use the same hardware basically? And I said, I found this one guy who's showing the top, I think it's the top 17 games made for ColecoVision, or the 17 games. It could have been probably the 17. And I was watching, and most of them were really dull, except there's a Defender clone, which I'm going to look at. And I saw Crazy Chicky Jr., but it was called Crazy Pucker. Gotta make sure the P comes out there.
Yeah.
It was called Crazy Pucker, and I looked at it, and my wife was sitting on the couch. I'm forcing her to watch it too. We watch that before we watch the shows. I get to watch my YouTube. And I told her, I could make that. She goes, it's like Pac-Man. I said, yeah, I could make that. I've always wanted to make Pac-Man without making Pac-Man and getting in trouble for it.
right.
So that was my inspiration there. But most of my inspiration comes from YouTube, or I just get an idea like, oh, I wonder if I could do this. Like Virix, I got the idea of Virix when I was waiting for Matrix, what was the last one, 4? Come out. I was wondering, what would it be like to make a Matrix style game on the ColecoVision? And I started thinking about it, and I came up with the idea of Virix. The one I just mentioned, the Viper Commander, that one, I always remember in Battlestar Galactica, I always remember those radar screens, and I thought to myself, we kind of have a game like that. Then the other game, the next game I'm working on, Joe the Eskimo, I came up with a title. And then me and my wife she's my everything. We just sat there playing it out, figuring out what it does, and we came up with the concept of it. It was really a cool idea. So that's the next game. So yeah, most of my ideas come from just watching YouTube. I do my best, and I do my best not to play games, because I've learned if I play games, then I start mimicking games. So I don't play other people's games. If I want to play a game, I play Carnival or I play Galaga. Those are the 2 games I play. I do something on the NES, but I try not to play games, and I try not to watch gameplay where people play other games, because what I learned a long time ago is when I watch these games, I sit there and try to figure out how they work, programming wise. How's this part work? Why does that part work? I don't sit there and look at it as a game. So I do my best not to look at other games when I'm programming unless I need inspiration. Because I don't want anybody to say, hey, that's the exact same thing somebody else did. Then realize, you know what, I just copied that without even knowing it.
Yeah. I can easily see that. It's kind of, I always have to watch movies twice, because the first time I pick apart everything and I look at how they did this, I can absolutely understand what you're saying. Because I'm almost like a critic the first time, then I watch the movie again to enjoy it if it was a good movie. So I could see that.
Hey, so you mentioned about the 8-bit museum that you're working on. How's the project coming along, and what will it be like when we visit it?
Well, what I'm learning that on a side is that realtors are not very easy to get a hold of. I found the one place I like, and I got a hold of, I found it on Facebook too. And I got a hold of the realtor, which was a pain in the neck to do, but I got a hold of her. It took like 2 days to get a hold of her. And then about 2 days later, I got to look at it, and I looked at it through it. I like this place. I like it. She goes, okay, I'll contact the landlord and I'll send you a copy of the lease. And that didn't happen. So I got a hold of her on, Monday, Monday actually. I said, did you talk to the landlord? And do you have the lease? Oh, I'm having eye surgery. I won't be able to talk to him until next week and get you a lease after that. And I told her, I said, my current place is on I have to give a 60-day notice. If I go past July 1st, I'm staying here to the end of September. I don't want to pay an extra month. If I'm going to get this place, I need to know by the 1st. Okay, I'll try to get it to you by then. That's one realtor. The other one, I found a place right 4 buildings down from where I'm at right now, which I really like. It's a nice big place. And I went on, I had to go online and Google the address to find the listing and found out it was an MLS. So I got a hold of a realtor online and I filled out their appointment thing and told them, yeah, I want to meet you yesterday at 10 a.m. and filled out all the stuff. They sent me verification codes and everything. 10 a.m. Nobody showed up. So I called up their 800 number. Oh, I can't find a record of it anywhere. I'll get one of them to have you call you. I'll have one of our commercial associates call you. I haven't heard from them yet. I stopped in their office yesterday afternoon and asked them, can I see this? Okay, I can be over there tomorrow. I'll give you a call over there. They didn't call.
Wow.
So, and then the third one I was looking at, yeah, that's too big. I don't need a basement and a kitchen. So that's the realty issue. I mean, I'll get the place I want. The idea I have is, at first it was just a thought. Have you ever watched Retro Man Cave on YouTube, RMC? He just set up his set in like a museum / store or something like that over in England, which is kind of cool. And my idea I had was, it's similar to that, is again, since I do all my coding, I mean, I have to sit in front of this computer anyways, in case somebody contacts me and I have to make a fix for a psychological test or I have to do some coding. So I sit in my office and I do my coding in my office. And I told myself, you know, I've always wanted to have a store. Not really a store, a museum, but not really a museum. And I bounced around and I came up with the idea. I want to have a gallery. I want to have a gallery / consignment shop. What I want to have is I want to have a place, and this will be by appointment only. It won't be, it may be open to the public on Saturdays, but other than that, it's appointment only. And what I want in it is I want to have this place set up where you have a 6-foot wide display case where I have set up a ColecoVision, all the hardware set up, TV hooked up to it, games there to play, all the paperwork, everything that you can come in. It's like a hands-on museum exhibit. And at the same time, there's ColecoVision software for sale there, consignment software. People who have things that they want to sell that they don't want to go through eBay, boxes of cartridges, things like that. So you come in, you can look at the museum exhibit, and you can purchase things if you wanted to. You can just look at it. And I want to have more than just ColecoVision. I want to have a Commodore 64 section, an Atari. I want to have basically anything 8-bit I want in there. So I figured, and then just to take the whole retro theme back to this 8-bit, I mean, I'm going to have some TVs up in the corner. They're going to either have MTV on it or something 80s all the time. And the nice thing is this would be a place that I'll go every day and I'll sit in my office and I'll code. I'll write games. But I have my little working museum out here that people come see. They just have to let me know. I like to come see it. They come see it. If they buy something, they buy something. They don't buy something, that's okay. Place is getting paid for by me working. So it's my place. And then the one I want to get down the street here has a nice big back area that could be a workshop where I can do all my hardware work. And it would probably be easier for me to do my YouTube videos and stuff at a place like that. Because right now I have 2 offices that are connected. One office is supposed to be my studio, but it's basically my storeroom, workroom. And if I want to do any video, I got to clean it. And the other office that I'm sitting in right now is me and 5 computers. So that's the idea of the 8-bit gallery / consignment shop. I don't think it's been done. There might be a reason why it hasn't been done, but it's something that I want to do just because it sounds like it'll be fun to do. And it kind of like incorporates my hobby more into my actual working.
Yep, for sure. Yep. I'm looking forward, and I'll have to make the journey out there when it eventually comes to fruition. So obviously these are huge plans that you've got coming down the line, everything we've talked about. So I kind of want to open this up a little bit now here for you, Millie, and just anything that you want to talk about, any what does the future hold for Milli? Really, is what we're asking. Where do you go from here, from where you're at now? Where would you like to be?
I'm happy where I'm at with what I'm doing. I'd like to see, the thing is, I mean, if this was 30 years ago, I'd be saying I just want to keep doing this because it's fun. But at 56 with a 2-year-old daughter, which is fun. Considering my next youngest is 24. But yeah, 56 with a 2-year-old daughter, I have to always say, well, if you're working, you need to be bringing some money home. Because that daughter's going to want money whether she needs it or not. So, I mean, so what I want to do is anything I do, I'd like to make some money off it. I don't plan on ever getting rich. Obviously, you're not getting rich off the ColecoVision. But I wanted to pay for itself and be able to take my daughter out to Chinese food once a week because that's what she likes. So what do I, the question was, what do I foresee myself doing? Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I talked too much.
Oh, you're okay.
Monster drinks kicking in. I want to stick with the ColecoVision because I like the system. I don't think it's been pushed to its limits at all. The user base is not the biggest in the world, but it's not small either. I want to move off into other systems too. I'd love to move into the, I'd love to move into the Commodore 64 system because the user base is really big there. But the issue I have with the Commodore 64, and I thought this was just back in the 80s, but it's still prevalent now. Everybody in the Commodore 64 community seems to think everything is free. And if you got a copy, give me a copy. So it kind of like kills the idea. I mean, with the Commodore 64, everything is being released on disk or digitally. And yeah, there's no control in the fact that you sell one and 50 other people have it. So kind of, so if I write anything for the Commodore 64, it's just for to get noticed and nothing else, because you're not going to make anything with Commodore 64 unless you're somebody like the 8-bit guy and you do a Kickstarter to pay for it. You're not going to make any money on it. I mean, on the side note, that's probably why he stopped the Commodore 64 and went on to the PCs for his next version of his Planet X3 games, because PC has the same issue, but at least you can control it a little bit. Yeah. So the Commodore 64 I'd love to go into. I like the idea of the hardware. I really have some ideas for hardware that I'd love to expand upon. And not just for the Commodore 64. I'd love to, me and another guy were talking this back when, I know this has been talked by a lot of people, but we were talking about it too. We'd love to make a drop-in cartridge, not just for the ColecoVision, but maybe for the Atari, or for anything that uses cartridges, that you just drop in and now you get your games online. And yeah, everybody says, oh, they have that. You can download it and you can use Wi-Fi, you can use, like with the Adam, you can use FujiNet or whatever. But no, I'm just saying a real simple system. You drop this cartridge into the ColecoVision, you turn it on, and there's a storefront. Select a game, pay $5, play it. Just like they have with Steam and everything else. The same concept for the ColecoVision. And not for buying games that exist already, but new games. Open up a market that other programmers may want to try to code for. Because if you have an idea for the ColecoVision, and if you know how to code for the ColecoVision, you have to balance it. Am I just coding this because I want the reputation points, or am I coding this because I want to make any money? And if you have no clue as to how to market it or sell it or assemble it, you're probably never going to write code 1 for the ColecoVision because you don't know what to do with it when you're done. I mean, it's not like you're writing a game for the PC or for any of the other 8-bit computers that you could just give somebody a disk and say, here, play this. The ColecoVision, you can't get it into the ColecoVision unless it's a ROM image. You can't get it into the actual hardware unless you make hardware to go with it. So I'd like to make something that lets you start your ColecoVision up. It connects Wi-Fi to your router, and you can just select a game and play it. And you pay for it, or it's just a subscription service. You pay a subscription fee, you turn it on, you play it. And have it play for not just the ColecoVision, for anything that we could support cartridge-wise to support it.
Sounds
But
good.
that's beyond my hardware tech now, or capabilities. So that would be somebody I need to know. I need to find that knows how to do hardware to do that.
Cool. Very cool. And so I'll go ahead and I'll ask it. I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds as well. I mean, this is the 40th anniversary of the ColecoVision. You know, even though it was a short-lived product, I mean, the love for it, even 40 years later, is quite amazing. What does, you know, what do you guys have in store? What do you have in store, you guys? What do you have in store for the 40th anniversary? I know I got a gold cartridge over here that you did as part of the Retro Gaming Club. Is there anything else you plan on doing?
We haven't worked on anything yet. I mean, my shirt, you can't read it. It does say 40th anniversary.
Are those for sale?
The shirts?
Yes.
I made them and I took them to Corks and I didn't sell any.
Oh, I was there and I don't even remember seeing them.
Yeah, they were sitting there. I don't think I didn't realize they were t-shirts. So I've been debating putting them on the store, and I tell myself, you know what? I'm going to open one up and wear it. But I've been wondering what to do at the 40th anniversary of Cleveland, which is kind of fascinating. Just on the whole history of it, is I don't think I saw a ColecoVision game system until 2016.
Wow.
I never saw one growing up.
Oh,
That's amazing.
that's
Everybody
amazing.
was Atari 2600 or and then NES, and even when I got the Adam, I never saw a ColecoVision until I started buying Adam stuff, and then the ColecoVision came with it one time, and I had one, which I promptly sold because I don't need this. I got the Adam, I can play the games I want. But yeah, I don't recall ever seeing a ColecoVision growing up.
Wow, I remember going down with
I don't even recall seeing the
parents.
commercials for them or the games. Now that I think about it, I don't remember that ColecoVision had a better version of Donkey Kong. I just remember the ugly Donkey Kong I had on the Atari.
You know, it was the Pac-Man that allowed me to talk my parents into waiting. Because they were like, we're going to get an Atari. We're going to get there. No, there's something better coming. It's coming out. It's got Donkey Kong. It looks like Donkey Kong.
2 o'clock in the morning in 1981. My mother's playing and I'm trying to sleep. I remember that.
Yeah, that was a bad
Yeah.
Donkey Kong.
Out
Actually, it
there
wasn't
and-
for what it
There's my
was.
mother. Mom, I'm trying to sleep.
Yep.
But yeah, I don't recall ever seeing a ColecoVision growing up.
Interesting. How about a Cabbage Patch Kid?
Yeah, I had those. For them. I remember Alf. I remember a whole bunch of Coleco stuff. I just don't remember the ColecoVision.
Wow.
And if I really think back, I don't recall, and I may have read about it, but I really don't recall ever seeing the Adam growing up either. I was really focused when I was growing up. It was the Ataris. And like I said, I didn't like the rest of them. I knew how they worked, but I didn't like them. But it was the Ataris and the Radio Shack computers. I love the Model 1s, the Model 2s, the Model 3s, and all of the, and their little pocket computers. I had a little PC4 pocket computer. I wrote a little arcade or little adventure game for it in BASIC. That was fun.
What'd you
Yeah,
think of the
that
Color
was
Computer
cool.
3?
What's that?
What'd you think of the Color Computer 3?
I never liked the color computers.
Oh.
I could never get past that green screen.
Huh. Well, you could change it.
Yeah, I never spent enough time to figure out how. and maybe it was because Radio Shack, back when the Color Computer 2 came out, Radio Shack had this thing, come in and apply for free credit, and you can buy a computer. And my uncle, who was the same age as me, he went in there and he applied and he walked out with a computer. I said, okay, I'm gonna go do it too. Yeah, I got turned down 3 times. So no, I didn't like it anymore.
I found the Color Computer 3 had the easiest BASIC to program than any BASIC I've ever programmed. So you could draw circles and squares with just a one-line command, you know, and it had something called P mode, which was page mode. You could flip
Right.
pages and stuff. So it was so simple to program. So
I always thought the Color Computer was weird in that the cartridge port was also the expansion port. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, what's a cartridge but just an expansion? But it seemed kind of, you plugged in this giant cartridge and there's your disk drive. I mean, it was like it was trying to be a TI-99.
well, they had it for games, and then they made the multi-port one where you put your
Right.
games and your disk drives and everything into it, you know. So, but no, I like that and television and Atari back then. I never heard of the ColecoVision back then either. So
Yeah, I don't recall ever seeing it in television.
never saw anyone with it.
So I babysat for somebody that had it in television. I liked babysitting for them because I could play Burger Time, which was one of the big games. I hated the disc, but that Burger Time and Astro Smash.
I've been approached by a couple people about the television, asked me if I could write some of my games with that too. I looked at it and I don't know if I want to learn another machine language.
I don't even remember what's that running. It's not even running. I wonder what, I can't remember what chip is in there.
Yeah, it's an oddball one.
Yeah, it's definitely an oddball one. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm gonna learn another game console, the next one I want to learn is the Atari 400 or the Atari 2600, which is close to 6502. It's just got a lot of quirks to it. I'd like to learn that one, but I don't know if I really want. I mean, what I want to do and what I should do is another story. I don't know if I really should spend the time.
Understood.
Great. So real quick, I'm gonna drop your website in here for anyone listening or watching. It's 8bitmilligames.com. That's 8 like the number 8 milli or 8-bit and then milli MILLI games.com. 8bitmilligames.com. You're also on Facebook. You post on Atari Age, right?
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Long story.
Yeah. You're a member of a few of the retro game Facebook groups and ColecoVision groups. Do you have anything else?
You're on
have.
Fanatics. You're on Fanatics.
Fanatics, yeah. Yeah.
That's-
You've
yeah.
and you have a YouTube channel as well, so I think
Yeah,
I
have
can
a
find you
YouTube
on there.
channel, 8-Bit Milli. Then I have
Great.
8bitmilli.com, which kind of links them all together. I have a Twitter account, I think. I get notices say people sending Twitter stuff. I've never used it. I have a Discord channel, but I don't think anybody used it. I think I set up an Instagram. I don't know. Do they expire? Because I'm pretty sure I set one of them up over time.
I keep getting emails that somebody tried to change my password. That's about all I use Instagram.
Oh, good.
I remember I originally set up all the different social medias that you're supposed to do, and it's like, yeah, I ain't got time for this. I have to set them up. I ain't got time to go on Twitter and tell anybody this. I found a program that lets me, every time I post my YouTube videos now, there's a website that logs into my YouTube and then shares it on Twitter and on Facebook for me. So that saves me a little bit of time.
Yep. So you are on Twitter. I found you.
Yeah. I could notice this, people sending things or saying things, but I never say nothing.
It's at bit_milli.
Yeah, they don't like the number 8. They wouldn't let me have an 8 there.
Yeah.
By the time I realized that was gonna be my name, I'm like, oh, great. and then Facebook won't let me have the number 8 either, which sucks because on my personal account I set up a page called 8-Bit Milli, the number 8 BIT Milli, no problem. But it's a page on my personal account. I don't want to use that. But so I had to set up 8 spelled out, bit spelled out, Milli Games. Which okay, fine, I'll use it.
Great. So any other final words for our listeners, our watchers from you, Millie? Anything you need them to know, would like them to know, or want to tell them?
New game. No, actually what I'd like to say though is because I mean, if anybody's on Facebook, and if they go in any of these groups, obviously I show up, they know I'm around there. I want to let everybody know I am very approachable. If somebody has an idea, they have a question, they have anything, I'm very approachable. My phone, and I've had it on mute because it's been dinging nonstop. I get 30, 40 people a day just asking me random things, and I'm approachable. I have no problem talking to people as long as they don't mind that in the middle of a conversation I disappear and go do something. So, I mean, if anybody has any questions about the games, I mean, if they have any simple questions, like, I mean, for right now, I am supposed to be working on a video explaining how to do Z80 programming on the Aquarius. And I have people asking me how that works. And I like telling people things, how this works, because I like to, when I was learning these things, I had nobody to ask. So now that I know some things, I like to tell people if they have any questions. So what I'd like people to know is if you ever have any questions, I mean, even if you just, I mean, we know how the world works and all the drama and stuff, and even if they just want to vent to me, they can vent to me as long as they don't mind me venting back, because I don't mind. But other than the social media portion of it, we got the gallery coming up, like we said. I got the game coming out, Crazy Chicky Jr., Joe the Eskimo. The reason why I'm not hiding the fact that Joe the Eskimo is because Joe the Eskimo has been promoted now for about 2 or 3 months as an upcoming game. Joe the Eskimo is the next game. I am hoping at the end of September, October, Joe the Eskimo will hit. I was supposed to have Virix out by now. I may try to squeeze Virix out, but if I am not happy where the direction is going, I'll let it sit for a bit till I get the right idea going. Because I think the concept is awesome, and it's just, I don't want to rush it out because I don't want anybody to think, oh, you just rushed this game out the door.
Right. I don't want you to rush it either, but I want it. I want it right now. When I saw that at Korg's, I was like, this is cool. And I need it.
That's what I've had a lot of people say. They love the look of it. Or like I said, or the one guy says he's going to bomb it because of all the moving characters and stuff on it. Which that could be okay. I mean, we could have vomit mode.
Maybe add a vomit mode in there, like as a.
I was wondering. I mean, in this game in Crazy Chicky, I had the disclaimer and stuff in the manual. I was thinking about this today when I was doing all the soldering. I was wondering if I should have put a disclaimer in there about the blinking graphics because starting on level 9, things start blinking like crazy. And I don't know, do I need to warn people ahead of time so that they don't get mad at me if they have a seizure watching it? Or am I okay?
All right, Millie. Well, I know I can speak for everyone. I say that we very much appreciate you being on here. It has been a great discussion, and we're looking forward to whatever the future holds for Millie. So thanks again for coming on. And like we always say here at Techegy Podcast, stay nerdy, my friends. I hate you guys. I really do.
Hey, we'll see you in Cleveland too. So
Yes, bring some t-shirts. I'll buy one, but I need a fat boy size. So
Cool. I'm a double X too.
yeah. Awesome. All right. Thanks, Millie. Thanks, everybody else.
See you, Millie.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bill. I appreciate it. Looking forward to the new game.
Oh, yeah.